Now, we don't have any evidence like that. We kind of lost the track, lost the footprint in the sand when she landed there at LaGuardia Airport. Yeah, if Caitlin is out there watching or anyone that is helping her, we ask you to come forward. Have Caitlin or Caitlin yourself surrender to authorities. It's just a matter of time. We're constantly working day in and day out. And we'd like to safely bring you into custody so that, you'll have your day in court and you'll be able to tell your side of the story.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So there's not been very much news in terms of Caitlin Armstrong. She's still on the run. It seems like she's been on the run for almost 20 days. We're approaching 3 weeks. But it's not as though there's no information. Some things have taken place. You've just heard Deputy Brandon Fuller, I think he's from the U.S. Marshals Service, telling News Nation Prime, surrender, come forward. I really don't think that is likely to happen here, but that is nevertheless what they're saying. He also says in that they basically lost all track of her when she landed at LaGuardia in New York. Now, since then, there was a memorial cycle ride in honor of the cyclist that died, Mo Wilson. The Austin, Texas cyclist gathered in her honor. And obviously it's not where Mo Wilson's from, but they nevertheless did gather. I've got to say, it's really tough seeing this because I lost a close friend of mine about 8 months ago. And there was also a memorial ride for him in his hometown, up to his house and so on. In fact, I actually wanted to start a memorial ride where I was. And so this cuts close to home for me and close to the bone. In terms of an article from velonews.com, they say that someone spoke at this memorial gathering on Memorial Day, and they basically just said the violence that took Mo's life was not okay, and we are not okay. Speaking on the stone steps of the federal courthouse, that was on Sunday afternoon, overlooking a crowd of about 100 people, all of them from Austin. And that was like in 100-degree heat in downtown Austin. Now, I want you to look at this image. This is an image of the Deep Eddy Pool. And I want you to have a look at this image and look at the word that is peeking out between the treetops in the background. You see it? I have since found another image of that pool on News Nation, which shows a pool there with lanes in it. So it is quite possible that they were both training there, that it wasn't just a casual encounter. We just don't know for sure either way. But they were both sports people, and so who knows what they were doing. The aspect I want to highlight in this video is something that has come through on cycling news, something I didn't really realize. Apparently there are something like 4 new warrants that have come out, and in any event, apparently Strickland originally acted as though he did not know who Mo Wilson was, but eventually admitted to knowing her. That is according to the text in one of these warrants. And so we're going to quickly go through the timeline and just do a quick review of it. So you may recall that Mo is not from Austin, Texas. She flew into Austin on May 10th, the day before she lost her life. And she was there for an event that would have been held on May 14 in Hyco, located between Austin and Dallas. And I believe Colin Strickland would also have taken part in that same event also on May 14. So obviously him taking part would certainly have made Caitlin aware that both of them have this opportunity of coming together again. And she knew, Caitlin Armstrong knew that they had prior engagements with one another, prior interactions that had ultimately excluded her. Anyway, so a woman from Maple Avenue and a friend of Wilson's picked her up from the airport. Then we go to May 11th. This is the day of the incident. We go to about 5:30 p.m. At 5:30, the friend that Mo was staying with left her own home, and that's in Maple Avenue, and received a text from Mo saying that she's going to meet up with a friend called Colin. And later that Colin was fully identified by police as Colin Strickland. She said she was going to go swimming. Then, as the friend left the residence, that's her own residence, she saw a large bicycle travel bag right next to the front door on an elevated porch. And I think she asked Mo to take the bag inside the house before she leaves so that no one steals it. Now we go about 15 minutes later. Wilson leaves the residence at Maple Avenue to swim with Strickland at the Deep Eddy Municipal Pool in Austin. Colin said he picked up Wilson at Maple Avenue at 5:45 p.m. After swimming, they went to the Pool Burger eatery to eat. Strickland said that he picked Wilson up on his motorcycle. And then there's quite a big jump. They eat at 6 o'clock, and more than 2 hours, 15 minutes later, he then brings her home. Strickland and Wilson leave the parking lot of Pool Burger on Strickland's motorcycle, according to a surveillance video timeline. And then we go 10 minutes into the future. At 8:26 p.m., a vehicle believed to be Armstrong's drives northbound on Maple Avenue and then turns west on East 18th Street, right? And that is also according to CCTV footage. And I think this raises the question, did Armstrong arrive home after 8 p.m. that night, realize Strickland wasn't there, or that his motorbike wasn't there, knew Mo was in town, put two and two together, and then went searching for him at an address she'd seen on Strava? So now we go to 8:35 p.m., which is 9 minutes later. At this point, Strickland drops Wilson off at the Maple Avenue residence and then drives northbound through an alleyway, and that's also confirmed by CCTV footage. In an interview with detectives, Strickland said he did not go inside the Maple Avenue residence. Do we know that for a fact? Well, it's difficult to say. I do think 20 minutes is quite a long time from the time they left the burger joint to him dropping Wilson off. Did they drive straight there and he just dropped her off, or did something happen for about 10 minutes when he said goodbye to her? Anyway, we now go to 8:36 p.m. Wilson goes inside. She uses a unique code to open the door in the Maple Avenue residence. And then a minute later, a minute after she goes inside, a black SUV is seen traveling towards the Maple Avenue residence and then slowing down, right? And cameras located on the back of the residence of East 18th Street seem to notice this. So the question is, could Caitlin actually have seen Mo go inside the house, and maybe she was parked sort of back somewhere? Was she parked somewhere? Did she get out of the vehicle? What was actually going on? And also, could she see Colin's motorbike there? And when he drove off, did she perhaps come out of wherever she was, sort of a back street? Then apparently no other vehicles were observed in the video surveillance. And then we go to about 11 minutes later, at about 8:48 p.m., Strickland drives south, and approximately 8 miles from the Maple Avenue residence, he turns to Fort Clark Drive, and again is driving on his motorcycle. And then around about 33 minutes later, Strickland is still working on his bicycles in the garage for the upcoming race when Armstrong returns to the residence driving a black SUV. And then it's about 33 minutes after that, Wilson's friend returns home to her residence at Maple Avenue, and she notices the door is unlocked. The friend also sees the large bicycle travel bag is now at the bottom of the stairs, partially blocking the carport. And I think what they don't say is that the bicycle's not in the travel bag. And so I think one's got to just bear in mind, if the friend actually arrived home earlier, if Mo's friend had actually arrived earlier, or simply was home all along, she could easily have been a victim too in this incident. And anyway, then we go to 2 minutes later. 2 minutes after she arrived home, Wilson's friend calls 911 and reports Wilson is unresponsive on the bathroom floor. I get the feeling that Wilson may have spotted Caitlin Armstrong in the residence and then try to flee into the bathroom. So she may have just gotten a few steps away, and that was as far as she got. In any event, her friend performed CPR. Specialists located 3 fire cartridge cases on the floor near Wilson, but the firearm was not located. And so this suggests Mo was shot 3 times. I think the fact that Mo Wilson's bike appeared to be stolen and it wasn't stolen. I mean, Caitlin didn't steal it, but she made it appear that it was stolen, and then she sort of dumped it somewhere. She was probably hoping that someone would retrieve it. In other words, that somebody else would take her bike, and then it would seem like some stranger broke in, tried to steal her bike, and then did this to Mo. And this is where it gets really interesting. So we go now to 10:10 p.m. First responders try life-saving measures, but Wilson is announced deceased by the doctor. And then we go to May 12th, where police question Colin Strickland as well as Caitlin Armstrong, and then they also search the residence. This is where it gets really interesting. They actually say that at 9:20 in the morning, right, the next morning, the police make contact with Strickland, and they say that Strickland originally acted as though he did not know who Wilson was, but eventually admitted to knowing her. And if you think about it, although it's a little bit different, Chris Watts originally acted as though he didn't know who Nicole Kessinger was. Something that I think is worth considering is, can you imagine if there was no CCTV footage and for whatever reason Caitlin sort of got away with what she got away with, and the authorities were sort of no wiser. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they never found out that there was some kind of fling or love triangle between Colin Strickland and Mo, and that whole thing. If they didn't do that, and then Caitlin returned home having done what she did, would Strickland not have suspected her? And if Strickland did suspect her, would he then have tried to protect her? Would he have kind of become an accessory after the fact? Would he have had sort of a guilty knowledge, and the two would have sort of stayed in a sort of uneasy relationship going forward? What do you think would have happened? I think that aspect is just quite interesting to think about in theory, based on him apparently acting as though he did not know who Wilson was. Could they have remained in a relationship where they both sort of cover for one another and perhaps live happily ever after, or perhaps not? So I'm not going to take it further than that. I still do want to do the social media analysis of Mo Wilson and all that kind of thing. Bear in mind, tomorrow is the verdict, very likely the verdict in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. So look out for that. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.